Months had passed since the final remnants of the Zalothian fleet were destroyed, and Earth was slowly returning to a sense of normalcy. But normal no longer meant what it once did. The scars of the invasion lingered, both on the planet and in the hearts of its people. Cities bore the marks of battles fought, their skylines dotted with cranes rebuilding what had been lost. Yet amidst the rubble, something remarkable emerged. A renewed spirit of cooperation and innovation. Carter spent his evenings scanning the stars, but his focus had shifted. No longer content with simply observing, he joined a global network of amateur astronomers who shared data and insights about phenomena beyond Earth. Their goal was simple: to understand the universe better and prepare for whatever might come next. Daniel's discovery of the faint glimmer near the moon during the invasion had sparked curiosity not just in him, but in others like him. They called themselves the Stargazer Collective, united by a shared mission to protect humanity from future threats. One evening, as Daniel adjusted his telescope, he noticed something unusual: a series of blinking lights moving in formation, far beyond Earth's orbit. At first, he thought it might be debris or satellites drifting in space, but as he tracked their trajectory, he realized they weren't following any known orbital path. The lights moved deliberately, almost intelligently. His pulse quickened. Could this be another alien presence? Daniel immediately contacted General Rachel Monroe, who had become an advisor to Project Sentinel even after her retirement. Though she listened patiently to his report, she didn't dismiss his concerns as paranoia. Instead, she ordered a team of scientists, including Laura Bennett, to investigate further. Laura analyzed the data Daniel provided, cross-referencing it with readings from deep space probes. What she found sent chills down her spine. The objects were indeed artificial, and they were approaching Earth at an alarming speed. Unlike the Zalothians, whose arrival had been slow and calculated, these newcomers seemed intent on reaching the planet quickly. Were they allies, or yet another threat? General Monroe convened an emergency meeting with world leaders. "We don't know their intentions yet," she said, her voice steady but urgent. "But we can't afford to wait until they arrive. We need to be ready for anything." The decision was made to send out a reconnaissance mission. Captain Ethan Cole volunteered to lead the operation, despite having retired from active duty months earlier. He believed that someone with combat experience should oversee the mission, especially given the uncertainty surrounding the new arrivals. His squadron consisted of some of the best pilots humanity had to offer, including Private Ryan Mitchell, who had proven himself time and again during the war. As Ethan's team prepared for launch, tensions ran high. The memories of the Zalothian invasion were still fresh, and the thought of facing another alien force filled many with dread. But there was also a sense of determination, a collective resolve not to let fear dictate their actions. Humanity had faced extinction before and survived. If necessary, they would do so again. The journey into deep space was long and silent. Ethan's team maintained radio silence to avoid detection, relying on stealth technology to mask their presence. As they approached the mysterious fleet, they activated their sensors, gathering as much data as possible without revealing themselves. What they saw was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The alien ships were unlike anything humanity had encountered before. Sleek and organic in design, they seemed to pulse with energy, as if alive. Their size dwarfed even the largest Zalothian vessels, and their movement suggested advanced propulsion systems far beyond human understanding. Most unsettling of all, they showed no signs of hostility, but neither did they appear friendly. Ethan signaled for his team to hold position while he attempted to establish communication. Using frequencies derived from Laura Bennett's research, he transmitted a message in multiple languages, hoping to convey peace and curiosity. The response came almost immediately, a stream of symbols and sounds that defied interpretation. Back on Earth, Laura worked tirelessly to decode the transmission. With assistance from linguists and computer algorithms, she began piecing together fragments of meaning. The aliens identified themselves as the Zorathians, a nomadic species traveling through the galaxy in search of knowledge and resources. They claim no interest in conquest, but emphasize their right to explore uncharted territories. "They're not here to invade," Laura reported to General Monroe. "At least not directly, but they're also not leaving anytime soon." Monroe frowned. That doesn't make them harmless. Knowledge is power, and they could easily take more than they give. Despite the ambiguity of the situation, humanity decided to extend an olive branch. A delegation led by Samantha Hayes traveled aboard a specially equipped spacecraft designed to withstand the rigors of deep space. Her role was twofold: to represent Earth's interests and to gather intelligence on the Zorathians' true motives. When Samantha's ship docked with the largest Zorathian vessel, she stepped onto an alien deck for the first time. The interior was dimly lit, with walls that shimmered like liquid metal. Strange creatures moved gracefully around her, their elongated limbs and glowing eyes marking them as distinctly non-human. One of them approached, emitting a series of melodic tones that translated into halting English. "We are explorers," it said. "Your world fascinates us." Samantha nodded, keeping her expression neutral. "We welcome peaceful exploration, but we must protect our home." The creature tilted its head as if considering her words. "Understood. We seek only to learn." Over the course of several days, Samantha engaged in cautious diplomacy, exchanging information about Earth's history and culture while learning about the Zorathians' way of life. She discovered that their society prized harmony above all else, viewing conflict as a failure of understanding. Yet she couldn't shake the feeling that they were holding something back. Meanwhile, on Earth, preparations continued in case diplomacy failed. Factories ramped up production of advanced weaponry, and military bases remained on high alert. Civilians, though reassured by official statements, braced themselves for the possibility of another invasion. Even Daniel Carter kept his telescope, trained on the skies, vigilant for any sign of trouble. As weeks turned into months, the Zorathians maintained a respectful distance from Earth, orbiting the planet, but making no aggressive moves. Their presence became a topic of debate worldwide. Some argued that they represented an opportunity for humanity to expand its horizons, while others viewed them as a looming threat. Laura Bennett pushed for collaboration, believing that cooperation with the Zorathians could accelerate human progress. Under her guidance, joint research projects were proposed, focusing on fields such as medicine, energy, and space travel. The Zorathians accepted cautiously, agreeing to share limited knowledge in exchange for access to Earth's resources. But not everyone trusted the arrangement. General Monroe voiced her concerns openly, warning against becoming too dependent on alien technology. "We've seen what happens when we underestimate outsiders," she reminded world leaders. "Let's not repeat our mistakes." Her words resonated deeply with Ryan Mitchell, who had returned to civilian life but remained involved in Project Sentinel as a reserve officer. He often visited schools to speak about the importance of vigilance and unity, urging younger generations to remember the lessons of the past. "We're stronger together," he told students, "and we'll always stand up for what's ours." The relationship between humanity and the Zorathians remained a delicate balance. While trade and cooperation flourished, so did suspicion and caution. Both sides recognized the potential benefits of partnership, but also the risks. On a quiet night, Daniel Carter sat on his porch, gazing at the stars. Beside him, Ryan adjusted the telescope, pointing it toward the distant glow of the Zorathian fleet. "Do you think they'll stay?" Ryan asked. Daniel shrugged. "Maybe. Or maybe they'll move on. Either way, we'll be ready." Above them, the cosmos stretched endlessly, a reminder of the infinite possibilities and challenges that lay ahead. Humanity had earned its place among the stars, but its journey was far from over. Together, they would face whatever the universe threw their way. The final chapter of humanity's war against the Xylothians unfolded not with a single decisive battle, but through a series of calculated moves. General Rachel Monroe orchestrated a global campaign to ensure that no trace of the invaders remained. Every surviving Xylothian ship was tracked, targeted, and destroyed. It wasn't just about victory anymore, it was about survival. Humanity had learned the hard way that even the smallest remnant of an enemy could grow into a future threat. Captain Ethan Cole led one of the last major operations. His squadron was tasked with hunting down a group of Xylothian vessels attempting to flee Earth's orbit. These ships were heavily damaged, their crews desperate to escape. But desperation didn't make them any less dangerous. Ethan knew that letting even one ship slip away could mean trouble for generations to come. As his team approached the fleeing fleet, Ethan felt a mix of emotions: pride in what they had accomplished, sorrow for the lives lost, and determination to finish the job. "Stay sharp," he said over the comms, his voice calm but firm. "We end this now." The human fighters unleashed their quantum disruptors, targeting the engines of the alien ships. One by one, the vessels exploded in fiery bursts, their wreckage drifting lifelessly into space. The Xylothian pilots made frantic attempts to retaliate, but their weapons were no match for humanity's advanced technology. Within minutes, the fleeing fleet was reduced to nothing more than debris floating in the void. Ethan's team returned to Earth victorious, but there was no time for celebration. Across the globe, other units continued their relentless pursuit of the remaining invaders. Lieutenant Samantha Hayes led ground teams into areas where Xylothian survivors had taken refuge, rooting out pockets of resistance hiding in remote locations. Her missions were dangerous, often involving close-quarters combat in unfamiliar terrain, but she never faltered. Each success brought humanity closer to total liberation. Private Ryan Mitchell found himself assigned to a cleanup crew after weeks on the front lines. Though he missed the adrenaline rush of battle, he understood the importance of rebuilding. His team worked tirelessly to clear wreckage from cities, repair infrastructure, and assist displaced civilians. It was grueling work, but it gave Ryan a sense of purpose. He saw firsthand how resilience and unity had carried people through the darkest days of the invasion. One day, while clearing rubble in downtown Chicago, Ryan stumbled upon something unexpected: a small child's toy buried beneath the debris. It was a plastic spaceship, cracked and dirty, but still recognizable. Ryan picked it up, examining it closely. The sight of it reminded him of why they had fought so hard. This world belonged to the next generation, and it was their duty to protect it. Meanwhile, Laura Bennett continued her work analyzing captured Xylothian technology. Her lab buzzed with activity as scientists pored over fragments of alien machinery, searching for ways to adapt it for human use. The discoveries were groundbreaking: new energy sources, advanced materials, and revolutionary medical applications. Laura marveled at the potential benefits these innovations could bring to Earth, but she also warned against complacency. "We can't afford to let this go to waste," she told General Monroe during a meeting. "This technology could change our future, but only if we use it wisely." Monroe nodded, her expression thoughtful. "You're right. We've been given a second chance, and we need to make the most of it." General Monroe addressed the world in a televised speech, standing before a backdrop of stars projected onto a massive screen. Her words were simple but powerful. "Today, we celebrate not just a victory, but a new beginning," she said. "We showed the galaxy that we are not to be underestimated, but let this also remind us of our responsibility to protect each other and stand united against any threat." Her message resonated deeply with people around the globe. Cities that had once been battlegrounds began to rebuild, bolstered by newfound unity and shared purpose. Factories that had churned out weapons now produced tools and supplies for reconstruction. Schools reopened, and children returned to classrooms, eager to learn about the heroes who had saved their planet. Daniel Carter watched the speech from his living room, feeling a mixture of pride and caution. He had played a small part in humanity's triumph, but he couldn't shake the feeling that the universe still held secrets far beyond comprehension. That night, he set up his telescope on the porch, gazing at the stars with both hope and vigilance. As he scanned the sky, a faint glimmer caught his eye. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it seemed to pulse with a rhythm unlike anything natural. Daniel adjusted his telescope, focusing on the source. For a moment, he wondered if it was another alien presence watching from afar, or perhaps it was simply a distant star, its light taking millennia to reach Earth. Whatever it was, it served as a reminder that humanity's journey was far from over. In the weeks that followed, peace settled over the planet. Survivors of the invasion came together to honor those who had fallen. Memorials were erected in every nation, bearing the names of soldiers and civilians alike. Among them was a plaque dedicated to Project Sentinel, acknowledging the countless individuals who had worked behind the scenes to defend Earth. Samantha Hayes attended one such ceremony in her hometown, standing quietly among the crowd. As she listened to speeches and watched wreaths being laid, she reflected on the sacrifices that had paved the way for this moment. She thought about her teammates, some of whom hadn't returned from their missions. Their bravery would never be forgotten. For Ryan Mitchell, life slowly returned to normal, or as close to normal as it could be after such an extraordinary experience. He resumed his hobby of stargazing, joining Daniel Carter on occasion to share observations. The two men formed an unlikely friendship, bonded by their roles in humanity's greatest challenge. Together they scanned the heavens, wondering what mysteries awaited discovery. Laura Bennett remained focused on her research, driven by a desire to ensure humanity would never again face such a dire threat unprepared. Her work inspired a new generation of scientists, eager to explore the possibilities unlocked by alien technology. Under her guidance, Earth began to take its first tentative steps toward becoming a spacefaring civilization. General Rachel Monroe retired from active duty, though she continued to advise world leaders on matters of defense and diplomacy. She believed strongly in maintaining peace, knowing all too well the cost of war. Her legacy lived on in the soldiers and civilians who carried forward the lessons learned during the conflict. As the months turned into years, humanity thrived. Cities rebuilt themselves stronger and smarter, incorporating advancements derived from Xylothian tech. Space exploration became a priority, with nations collaborating on missions to explore nearby planets and moons. Earth had emerged from the crucible of war not broken, but forged anew. But the stars still watched silently, their depths concealing untold wonders and dangers. Humanity had proven itself capable of defending its home, but the universe was vast, and its challenges endless. Somewhere out there, new civilizations waited, their intentions unknown. On a quiet evening, Daniel Carter sat on his porch, sipping coffee as he gazed at the night sky. Beside him, Ryan Mitchell adjusted the telescope, pointing it toward a particularly bright cluster of stars. "What do you think is out there?" Ryan asked. Daniel smiled faintly. "I don't know, but whatever it is, I'm glad we'll face it together." Above them, the cosmos stretched endlessly, a tapestry of light and shadow. Humanity had earned its place among the stars, but its story was far from finished. The journey ahead promised challenges, discoveries, and opportunities to grow, and as long as people stood united, there was no limit to what they could achieve. The tide of the war began to shift as humanity embraced its newfound advantage. Laura Bennett's discovery of the Xylothians' shielding flaw proved to be a turning point. Factories that once produced cars, appliances, and other everyday goods were repurposed overnight to manufacture weapons calibrated to exploit this weakness. Soldiers received updated gear, and even civilians contributed by assembling components in makeshift workshops. General Rachel Monroe stood at the center of it all, coordinating efforts with precision. Her command center buzzed with activity as technicians monitored alien movements and strategists planned counterattacks. For the first time since the invasion began, hope filled the air. The Xylothians had underestimated humanity, and now they would pay for their arrogance. Captain Ethan Cole led one such mission, a daring strike against a heavily guarded Xylothian cruiser orbiting Earth. The ship served as a command hub, relaying orders to the rest of the fleet. If it could be neutralized, the invaders' coordination would crumble. Ethan's squadron, equipped with stealth fighters and quantum disruptors, prepared for what might be their most dangerous operation yet. Before launching, Ethan addressed his team. "This isn't just about winning a battle," he said, his voice steady but firm. "It's about showing them we're not afraid. We fight for every man, woman, and child on this planet." His words resonated deeply with Private Ryan Mitchell, who had grown more confident with each passing day. What started as fear had transformed into determination. He nodded, gripping the controls of his fighter as the countdown began. When the signal came, the squadron launched into space, leaving Earth's atmosphere behind. As they approached the cruiser, Ethan's team activated their cloaking devices, rendering their ships invisible to the enemy. The Xylothians remained, oblivious, their focus on the ongoing battles below. Ethan guided his team through a maze of smaller vessels surrounding the cruiser, careful to avoid detection. Once inside the cruiser's perimeter, the humans deployed quantum disruptors, devices designed to disable alien technology. The disruptors emitted pulses that caused the cruiser's systems to malfunction. Lights flickered, engines sputtered, and alarms blared as chaos erupted aboard the ship. Ethan signaled for his team to target specific sections of the cruiser, aiming to cripple its ability to communicate. Plasma bolts tore through the hull, creating breaches that sucked debris and unlucky aliens into the void of space. Despite the ferocity of the attack, the Xylothians fought back fiercely, deploying interceptor drones to hunt down the intruders. Ryan's heart raced as he dodged incoming fire, his fighter weaving through a storm of energy blasts. Sweat dripped down his face as he returned fire, taking out 2 drones with precise shots. "Got 'em!" he shouted over the comms, earning cheers from his teammates. But the battle wasn't without cost. One of the stealth fighters was hit, its pilot ejecting, moments before it exploded. Ethan gritted his teeth, knowing there was no time to mourn. "Stay focused," he ordered. "We finish this together." With the cruiser severely damaged, Ethan gave the order to retreat. As his team pulled away, the cruiser imploded in a spectacular display of light and sound, sending shockwaves rippling through space. Below on Earth, people watched the explosion with awe, unaware of the bravery that had made it possible. Back at headquarters, General Monroe reviewed the mission's success with satisfaction. The loss of the cruiser disrupted the Xylothians' chain of command, leaving their forces scattered and disorganized. But Monroe knew better than to celebrate too soon. The invaders still outnumbered humanity, and their resolve remained unbroken. In another part of the world, Lieutenant Samantha Hayes prepared for her own perilous mission. Tasked with infiltrating the largest Xylothian vessel, their mothership, she volunteered despite the overwhelming risks. Her objective was clear: plant a prototype weapon developed by Laura Bennett, capable of generating localized black holes. If successful, the device would destroy the mothership and deal a crippling blow to the Xylothian fleet. Samantha suited up, checking her equipment one last time. Her single-person craft, small enough to slip past enemy defenses, awaited her on the launch pad. Before climbing aboard, she glanced at a photo tucked into her helmet. A picture of her family, She whispered a silent promise to return home, then stepped inside the cockpit. The journey to the mothership was tense. Samantha navigated through dense fields of debris and evaded patrols, her hands steady on the controls. When she reached the massive vessel, she found an opening in its hull, caused by earlier attacks. Slowly, carefully, she guided her craft inside. Inside the mothership, Samantha moved like a ghost, avoiding detection as she made her way to the ship's core. The device needed to be placed near the power source to maximize its effect. Every step felt heavier than the last, the weight of her mission pressing down on her shoulders. Finally, she reached the chamber housing the reactor. Placing the device required precision. Samantha worked quickly, attaching the weapon to the reactor's frame. A timer counted down from 10 minutes, giving her just enough time to escape. As she turned to leave, however, she heard footsteps echoing down the corridor. Zalothian soldiers were approaching. Thinking fast, Samantha hid behind a console, holding her breath as the soldiers passed. They didn't notice her, too preoccupied with repairing damage elsewhere. Once they were gone, she sprinted back to her craft, her heart pounding. With seconds to spare, she launched herself out of the mothership, narrowly avoiding defensive fire. Moments later, the device activated. A swirling vortex of energy formed at the ship's core, consuming everything around it. The mothership groaned under the strain, its structure buckling as the black hole expanded. Then, with a deafening roar, the vessel collapsed in on itself, disappearing entirely. The destruction of the mothership sent shockwaves through the Zalothian ranks. Without their flagship, their remaining forces struggled to regroup. Morale plummeted, and dissent spread among the crew. Subordinate officers questioned Commander Vrax's leadership, blaming him for the catastrophic losses. Mutiny brewed aboard several ships, further weakening their cohesion. On Earth, news of the victory spread like wildfire. Civilians celebrated. In the streets, waving flags and singing songs of triumph. Soldiers embraced one another, tears streaming down their faces. Even Daniel Carter, whose amateur observations had sparked early warnings, felt a surge of pride. Humanity had proven itself capable of standing toe-to-toe with an interstellar empire and winning. General Monroe addressed her staff, her expression grim despite the success. "We've dealt them a heavy blow, but they're not defeated yet. Stay vigilant. This war isn't over until the last Zalothian leaves our skies." Laura Bennett echoed the sentiment, poring over data from the latest engagements. Though exhausted, she refused to rest, determined to uncover any remaining weaknesses in the enemy's technology. Her mind buzzed with possibilities, each new, discovery bringing humanity closer to total victory. Private Ryan Mitchell reflected on how far he'd come since the invasion began. Once unsure of himself, he now stood tall alongside his comrades, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The fear hadn't vanished entirely. It never would, but it no longer controlled him. Instead, it fueled his resolve to protect those he loved. As the sun rose over a battered but resilient Earth, humanity took stock of what they had achieved. Cities bore scars from battles fought, and countless lives had been lost. Yet amid the devastation, a sense of unity emerged. People from all walks of life had come together, proving that when faced with extinction, humanity could rise above its differences. But unknown to anyone, a faint glimmer appeared in the distant reaches of space. A reminder that the universe held secrets far beyond what humanity understood. The Zalothians may have been beaten, but the stars still watched, silently waiting to see what Earth would do next. The first wave of Zalothian drones descended like a swarm of metallic insects, their sleek shapes glinting in the moonlight. They moved with precision, scanning the ground below as if searching for something specific. The humans watched from concealed positions, their weapons ready but their hearts pounding. This was it, the moment they had trained for. Private Ryan Mitchell crouched behind a pile of rubble on the outskirts of Chicago, his finger hovering over the trigger of his plasma rifle. His team had been tasked with defending a power station, one of many strategic locations targeted by the invaders. Ryan's breath came in short bursts as he tried to steady himself. He glanced at Captain Ethan Cole, who gave him a quick nod. "Stay calm," Ethan whispered. "We've got this." The drones landed in formation, their legs unfolding like spider limbs. They were smaller than the massive ships hovering above, the city, but they radiated an aura of menace. Their glowing red sensors scanned the area, and Ryan felt exposed despite the camouflage covering his uniform. For a moment, everything was silent. Then, without warning, the drones began moving toward the power station. Captain Cole raised his hand, signaling his team to hold their fire. The plan was simple. Wait until the drones were close enough to disable them all at once. If even one escaped, it could alert the larger fleet. Ryan tightened his grip on his weapon, sweat trickling down his back. He counted the seconds in his head, his focus narrowing to the nearest drone. When the machines were within range, Cole lowered his hand sharply. "Now!" he shouted. A barrage of plasma bolts erupted from the hidden soldiers, striking the drones with pinpoint accuracy. The electromagnetic pulses emitted by the weapons disrupted the alien systems instantly. One by one, the drones collapsed, their lights flickering out like dying candles. Ryan fired repeatedly, his heart racing as he watched the machines crumble. Within minutes, the entire group was destroyed, but the victory was short-lived. As the last drone fell, its wreckage emitted a high-pitched whine before exploding in a burst of energy. The shockwave knocked Ryan off his feet, sending him sprawling onto the ground. Debris rained down around him, and for a moment, he lay there stunned, his ears ringing. When he finally sat up, coughing and disoriented, he saw Captain Cole helping. "Another soldier to their feet. Everyone okay?" Cole asked, his voice tight with urgency. There were murmurs of confirmation, though some soldiers bore cuts and bruises. Ryan nodded, brushing dust off his uniform. Despite the chaos, the mission had succeeded. The drones were gone, and the power station remained intact, but Ryan knew this was only the beginning. Back at the command center, General Rachel Monroe reviewed footage of the skirmish. Her face was unreadable as she watched the drones being dismantled with ease. On one hand, the success of the operation was encouraging. Humanity's advanced weaponry had proven effective against the invaders. On the other hand, she couldn't shake the feeling that the Xylothians were testing them, probing for weaknesses. "They're arrogant," Laura Bennett said, standing beside Monroe. She held a tablet displaying data collected from the destroyed drones. "They didn't expect resistance like this. Look at their design. It's efficient, yes, but not adaptable. We can exploit that." Monroe nodded slowly. "Good work, Doctor. Bennett, keep analyzing. I want to know everything we can use against them." She turned to her staff. "Prepare the next phase. If they think we're weak, let's make sure they regret underestimating us." High above Earth, aboard the Xylothian flagship, Commander Vrax seethed with anger. The reports from the failed reconnaissance mission infuriated him. How could primitive humans possess technology capable of destroying his drones so effortlessly? It defied logic. Vrax paced across the bridge of his ship, his claws clicking against the metallic floor. "This is unacceptable," he growled, addressing his subordinates. "Earth was supposed to be an easy conquest. Instead, these savages dare to resist us?" One of his officers hesitated before speaking. "Commander, perhaps we should reassess our strategy. Their weapons seem—" "Silence!" Vrax snapped, cutting him off. "I will not tolerate cowardice. We are the Xylothian Empire. No planet has ever stood against us, and Earth will not be the first." Vrax ordered a full-scale assault, determined to crush humanity once and for all. Wave after wave of drones and smaller ships descended upon cities worldwide, targeting infrastructure and military installations. The skies lit up with explosions as humanity fought back with everything they had. In Paris, Lieutenant Samantha Hayes led a squad of soldiers through the streets, dodging blasts from alien weapons. Samantha was known, for her quick thinking and fearless leadership, traits that made her invaluable during combat. Her team had been assigned to protect a communications tower, a critical link in Project Sentinel's network. As enemy ships circled overhead, Samantha directed her soldiers to take cover behind abandoned vehicles and buildings. Plasma rifles crackled as they returned fire, forcing the aliens to retreat momentarily. But the Xylothians regrouped quickly, deploying reinforcements that overwhelmed the defenders. "We can't hold them here," one of the soldiers yelled, panic creeping into his voice. Samantha clenched her jaw. "Fall back to the secondary position," she ordered. "We'll regroup and hit them harder." Her team obeyed, retreating to a fortified bunker nearby. Inside, Samantha radioed headquarters for support while her soldiers reloaded their weapons. Reinforcements arrived just in time, turning the tide of the battle. Together, they pushed the Xylothians back, reclaiming the communications tower at great cost. Across the globe, similar scenes played out. In Sydney, civilians joined forces with local militias to fend off invaders using makeshift weapons and sheer determination. In Moscow, tanks equipped with experimental railguns took down enemy ships with devastating efficiency. Every victory, no matter how small, boosted morale and proved that humanity wouldn't go down without a fight. Meanwhile, Daniel Carter found himself drawn into the conflict in unexpected ways. After witnessing the initial invasion, he had volunteered to assist a civilian support team responsible for maintaining communication networks. Though he lacked combat training, his knowledge of astronomy and engineering made him a valuable asset. One night, as Daniel worked to repair a damaged satellite dish, he noticed something peculiar on his laptop screen. Bursts of energy emanating from the moon's surface suggested the presence of Xylothian supply depots. Excited by the discovery, he forwarded the information to General Monroe's team, hoping it would help turn the tide. General Monroe received Daniel's report with interest. "If we can disrupt their supply lines, we might cripple their operations," she said to her advisors. She immediately ordered a covert mission to investigate further. Captain Ethan Cole was chosen to lead the operation. Under the cover of darkness, his squadron launched into space aboard stealth fighters equipped with quantum disruptors. The goal was to infiltrate the Xylothian bases and plant explosives designed to disable their resources. As Ethan's team approached the moon, tension filled the cockpit. None of them had ventured beyond Earth's atmosphere before, and the stakes couldn't have been higher. Guided by Daniel's coordinates, they located the first depot nestled inside a crater. Alien ships patrolled the area, but thanks to their cloaking technology, the humans remained undetected. Ethan signaled for his team to split up, each member heading to a different section of the base. Armed with EMP grenades, they planted charges throughout the facility. Just as they were about to withdraw, alarms blared, and searchlights illuminated the area. "Move!" Ethan shouted, firing at the approaching guards. The team sprinted toward their ships, narrowly avoiding capture. As they lifted off, the charges detonated, creating a chain reaction that obliterated the depot. Cheers erupted over the comms as the pilots celebrated their success. But the real breakthrough came when Laura Bennett analyzed the data recovered from the destroyed drones and supply depots. She discovered a flaw in the Xylothians' shielding technology, a frequency that, when targeted, caused catastrophic failures. With this knowledge, humanity gained a decisive advantage. General Monroe wasted no time implementing the new strategy. Orders went out to all units to recalibrate their weapons to exploit the vulnerability. The Xylothians, unaware of what awaited them, continued their relentless attacks. Unbeknownst to humanity, however, Commander Vrax was growing desperate. Reports of mounting losses poured in, shaking his confidence. For the first time, doubt crept into his mind. Could Earth truly pose a threat to the mighty Xylothian Empire? Little did he know, the worst was yet to come. It was a quiet evening in the small town of Willow Creek, where Daniel Carter sat on his porch with a cup of coffee. The air was cool, and the sky was clear. perfect for stargazing. Daniel loved looking at the stars. Ever since he was a child, he had been fascinated by the mysteries of space. He often spent hours sitting outside with his old telescope, searching for anything unusual. That night, something unusual caught his eye. At first, it looked like a faint glimmer, a tiny spark, moving across the sky. But as Daniel adjusted his telescope, he realized it wasn't alone. There were more of them, dozens of lights forming strange patterns. They didn't twinkle like stars or streak like meteors. Instead, they moved slowly but deliberately, almost as if they were alive. Daniel frowned. He had seen satellites before, but these lights didn't behave like any satellite he knew. They seemed to be arranging themselves into shapes, triangles, lines, and even circles. It was mesmerizing yet unsettling. For a moment, he wondered if his eyes were playing tricks on him. But when he blinked and looked again, the lights were still there, glowing softly against the dark expanse of the universe. Curiosity got the better of him. Daniel grabbed his phone and snapped a few pictures, hoping to zoom in later. Then he went inside to check online forums dedicated to astronomy enthusiasts. Maybe someone else had noticed the same thing. As he scrolled through posts, he found nothing. No one seemed to have reported anything unusual about the night sky. But Daniel wasn't the only one who saw the lights. Across the globe, people were noticing them too. In Tokyo, a young woman named Aiko Tanaka stepped out onto her balcony and gasped at the sight. She quickly recorded a video and uploaded it to social media, tagging friends to see if they could explain what she was seeing. In London, an elderly man named Harold Jenkins stared through his binoculars, muttering to himself about how such formations couldn't possibly exist naturally. By morning, news outlets around the world were buzzing, with reports of strange lights in the sky. Some speculated it was a secret military experiment gone wrong. Others joked that aliens were finally making contact, but no one had answers, and the uncertainty only fueled the growing sense of unease. Laura Bennett woke up to a flurry of emails from colleagues all over the planet. As a senior scientist at NASA, she was used to dealing with unexplained phenomena, but this was different. The sheer number of sightings was unprecedented. More importantly, radar systems across multiple continents had picked up something massive entering Earth's atmosphere. Whatever it wasn't natural. Laura rushed to her office, where teams of researchers were already analyzing data. Screens displayed maps covered in red dots marking locations where the lights had been spotted. Satellite images showed blurry, shapes descending toward Earth. Laura leaned closer, squinting at the screen. "This can't be right," she muttered under her breath. The objects were enormous, far bigger than any known spacecraft. As the day wore on, the tension escalated. Around noon, the skies above major cities began to darken. Massive ships appeared, hovering silently above landmarks like the Statue of Liberty, the Eiffel Tower, and the Great Wall of China. People stopped in their tracks, staring upward in awe and fear. Phones lit up as millions tried to capture the moment, sharing videos and photos online. Then came the message. A deep, resonant voice boomed from speakers embedded in the alien ships. It spoke in flawless English, addressing humanity as though delivering a royal decree. "We are the Xylothian Empire," the voice declared. "You will surrender your planet to us. Resistance is futile." The announcement sent shockwaves through society. Governments scrambled to respond, convening emergency meetings behind closed doors. Military bases went on high alert, though no one knew how to prepare for an invasion of this scale. Civilians panicked, flooding grocery stores and gas stations in anticipation of chaos. But not everyone was caught off guard. Deep beneath the surface of the Earth, hidden facilities sprang to life. Project Sentinel, a top-secret initiative created decades ago to defend against extraterrestrial threats, activated its protocols. General Rachel Monroe, the head of the operation, stood in a dimly lit command center surrounded by monitors displaying real-time updates from every corner of the globe. Rachel had spent years preparing for this moment. When intelligence suggested that intelligent life existed beyond Earth, governments pooled resources to develop cutting-edge technology. Weapons capable of neutralizing advanced alien machinery were designed and tested in secrecy. Soldiers trained rigorously, learning to operate equipment far beyond anything currently available to public militaries. Now, as the Xylothians broadcast their demands, Rachel issued orders with calm precision. Troops armed with plasma rifles and cloaking devices took positions near potential targets. Civilian evacuation plans were put into motion, ensuring non-combatants were moved to safe zones. Communication lines buzzed with activity as leaders coordinated strategies. Among the soldiers preparing for battle was Private Ryan Mitchell. At just 22 years old, Ryan had joined the military seeking adventure. Now, standing shoulder to shoulder with veterans twice his age, he felt a mix of excitement and terror. His hands trembled slightly as he checked his weapon, double-checking that it was loaded and ready. Nearby, Captain Ethan Cole briefed his team on their mission. They would serve as the first line of defense if the Xylothians attempted to land. Their goal was simple: hold the line until reinforcements arrived. Ethan's voice carried authority, masking the nervous energy coursing through him. He glanced at Ryan, offering a reassuring nod. "Stay sharp," he said. "We've trained for this." As the sun set, casting long shadows over the landscape, the Xylothian ships remained ominously still. Humanity held its breath, waiting for the next move. Unbeknownst to the invaders, Earth's defenders weren't the helpless primitives they expected. Decades of preparation had given humanity tools and tactics far superior to anything the Xylothians could imagine. In her lab, Laura Bennett worked tirelessly, examining fragments of alien technology recovered during reconnaissance missions. Her mind raced as she pieced together clues about the enemy's weaknesses. If she could find a way to exploit those vulnerabilities, humanity might stand a chance. Meanwhile, Daniel Carter watched the news unfold from his living room. The once quiet astronomer now felt like a witness to history. He thought about the lights he'd seen the previous night and wondered if he'd glimpsed the beginning of humanity's greatest challenge or its finest hour. Outside, the streets were eerily silent. Cars sat abandoned, shops boarded up, and schools empty. The world braced itself for what came next. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked, breaking the stillness. Then, without warning, the ground shook as the first wave of Xylothian drones descended from the sky. The battle for Earth had begun. The year was 3027, and humanity had spread far beyond Earth. The old blue planet was now a distant memory, a place spoken of in history books and bedtime stories. People lived on dozens of planets, moons, and space stations scattered across the galaxy. Empires had risen and fallen, alliances had been forged and broken, and the universe felt vast and unpredictable. But even in this age of advanced technology and endless possibilities, there were still mysteries that baffled everyone. On a quiet day in orbit around Epsilon 9, one of the oldest human colonies, something strange happened. A ship appeared out of nowhere. It wasn't just any ship, it was an Earth vessel, a relic from centuries past. The ship floated silently in the cold vacuum of space, its battered hull glinting faintly under the light of a nearby star. No one could believe their eyes. This was impossible. Ships like this hadn't been seen in over 500 years. Commander. Rachel Hayes stood on the bridge of her patrol ship, staring at the readings on her console. Her dark hair was tied back neatly, and her sharp green eyes scanned the data with intense focus. She had spent most of her life serving in the fleet, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. The object before them matched the description of an old Earth cargo hauler called the Eclipse. Records showed it had departed Sol system centuries ago, never to return. Yet here it was, drifting as if time itself had forgotten about it. Rachel turned to her crew. "What do we know?" she asked, her voice calm but firm. Lieutenant James Parker, a young officer with a nervous habit of tapping his fingers against his leg, glanced up from his station. "It's definitely the Eclipse out, Commander. The registry matches and the design is unmistakable, but—" He hesitated, glancing at the screen again. "There's no power signature, no life signs, nothing." Rachel frowned. "Send out a communication signal. Let's see if anyone responds." James nodded and began typing commands into his console. Seconds passed, then minutes. The silence on the bridge grew heavier with each passing moment. Finally, James shook his head. "Nothing, Commander, no response." Rachel crossed her arms, thinking. "Prepare a boarding party. We need to check it out." An hour later, Rachel led a small team aboard the Eclipse. The airlock hissed open, revealing a dimly lit corridor. The smell of stale air hit them, immediately, thick and musty, like the ship had been sealed shut for centuries. The walls were scarred with dents and scratches, evidence of battles fought long ago. Dust covered every surface, and the floor creaked under their boots as they moved deeper inside. "This place feels wrong," muttered Lieutenant Sarah Bennett, a tall woman with short blonde hair. She held her weapon tightly, her eyes darting nervously around the corridor. "It's like it's been abandoned for hundreds of years, but—" She trailed off, unable to finish her thought. "But what?" Rachel asked, turning to look at her. Sarah hesitated. "It's hard to explain. It's like I can feel something watching us." Rachel didn't dismiss Sarah's words. She felt it too, a strange unease, a prickling sensation at the back of her neck. Still, they pressed on, moving carefully through the ship. Every step revealed more clues about what might have happened here. In the crew quarters, personal belongings lay untouched. Photos of smiling families, clothes hanging in closets, books stacked neatly on shelves. It was as if the crew had vanished without warning. In the mess hall, trays of food sat on tables, half-eaten meals frozen in time. Rachel picked up a fork, examining it closely. The metal was tarnished, but the food looked almost fresh, preserved by the vacuum of space. Whoever had eaten here had done so recently, or so it seemed. Time aboard the Eclipse didn't make sense. As they explored further, the team noticed something else, a faint hum. At first, it was barely audible, like the distant buzz of machinery. But the deeper they went, the louder it became. It resonated through the walls, vibrating in their chests. It wasn't just a sound. It felt alive, pulsing with energy. "What is that?" Sarah whispered, clutching her weapon tighter. "I don't know," Rachel admitted. "But we need to find out." They followed the source of the hum to the engine room. The massive chamber was filled with twisted metal and shattered equipment, evidence of some catastrophic event. In the center of the chaos stood a glowing sphere, hovering silently in mid-air. Its light pulsed rhythmically, matching the hum that filled the room. Rachel approached cautiously, her heart pounding in her chest. "Stay back," she ordered, raising a hand to stop the others. "We don't know what this is." But the sphere didn't react. It simply hovered there, radiating warmth and energy. Rachel reached out tentatively, her fingers brushing against its surface. For a brief moment, she saw flashes of images, faces, voices, places she didn't recognize. Then, as quickly as it started, the vision ended, leaving her disoriented and breathless. "Commander!" Sarah called out, snapping Rachel back to reality. "Are you okay?" Rachel nodded, stepping away from the sphere. "I'm fine. Let's get out of here." Back on their patrol ship, the team debriefed. Everyone agreed. The Eclipse was unlike anything they'd ever encountered. It was as if the ship existed outside the flow of time, untouched by the Centuries that had passed since its disappearance. But the real mystery was the crew. Where had they gone? And why had the ship returned now, after all these years? News of the discovery spread quickly. By the time Rachel returned to Epsilon 9, the entire colony was buzzing with rumors. Some people believed the Eclipse was a ghost ship, cursed and haunted by the spirits of its lost crew. Others thought it was a message sent by some unknown force to warn humanity of impending danger. Whatever the truth was, one thing was certain. The reappearance of the Eclipse had shaken everyone to their core. As Rachel stepped off the shuttle and onto the station's docking bay, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were only scratching the surface of a much larger mystery. Something was coming, something big. And the Eclipse was just the beginning.